Hey everyone. So yeah, just getting this out of the way. As you can see from the backdrop, I'm house sitting for my stepmother. I'm going to be doing that for the next couple weeks. But yeah, so yeah, just expect the next couple videos like this. But getting into the episode itself, though, I guess the place to start is basically the end of the episode, where among the backdrop of all the chaos going across Onigashima, Orochi comes face to face once again with Komurasaki, aka Hiyori as we know her. And honestly, in retrospect, I was quite a dumbass with my prediction of what this was when this was first set up in the manga, because at the time I had thought that the Komurasaki we were seeing was an illusion or figment of Orochi's imagination, like pretty much brought on from him inhaling the fumes from the smoke fumes from the fire, or just full on him going crazy to the point where he was envisioning her. But no, the person we are seeing here is the real Hiyori, which, slight spoiler for anime onlys, I suppose, but this whole little last chunk of the episode with Hiyori and Orochi is basically setting up for, honestly, one of the most poetically ironic deaths for the man ever, which, truthfully, I personally felt was more than he deserved at the time. But just the whole scenario itself with Orochi and Hiyori surrounded, just them being isolated in this one room, you can almost kind of put together exactly what's happening here. It's basically a repeat of what happened 20 years ago, although as far as how it ends, again, poetically ironic justice at its finest. I won't say any more than that, but let's just say this is going to end similarly to how it's kind of funny how this ends for Komurasaki, how this ends for Orochi is going to be very similar for how it ended for when it came to how things ended for pretty much 20 years ago for Odin and the Kazuki clan at that time. Moving on from that, though, and this is going to sound like a strange compliment, but I do like how fairly consistent Toei was in this episode with Big Mom's size proportions, which, again, sounds strange, but I did. But one thing again, sounds strange to compliment Toei on, but one thing I did kind of find throughout Whole Cake Island, and even a bit of early Wano, is there were moments where it felt like the artists and animators were struggling to keep Big Mom's general size consistent, but with Big Mom now even bigger than she was before, I imagined this makes it slightly easier for them to get more consistent proportions and even kind of play around with the angles like they did in this episode where you see that what's essentially a Godzilla shot of Big Mom's face entering the scene, and even just a little things like how big she is compared to Kid and Law as well as her homies. It's one of those things that really does show a sense of scale with Big Mom and how truly powerful and big she is. It's not just one of those times where it's bigger they are, the harder they fall. No, the bigger they are, the harder they hit. Of course, Big Mom aside, we also get more with basically with Orochi's little flame plaything, Kazenbo, and just making its way through Onigashima, setting everything, comes into contact with a blaze. And honestly, when reading the manga, I never had any strong feelings on pretty much Kanjuro after he became that thing, after he became that monster. He just kind of felt at that point, he just felt purely like he was a plot device at that point in order to kind of keep things rolling until the very end. And I was just waiting for when his flame would finally be put out, so to speak. But with that said, that's how I felt when reading the manga. Now, but with me revisiting this in the anime, I do admit the anime, I think, is doing a bit of a better job at giving him much more of an on-screen presence and making him feel like an actual individual threat and character. Whereas before, I didn't really even feel any of that for the guy, honestly. Once again, though, if I were to point out any slow moments in this episode, it would have to be the Yamato segments, but this time not helped by the fact that you now have a poo thrown into the mix as well, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about these moments. There's just something about them that just feels so slow compared to the rest of the episodes, and I think it's just one of those things where of all the things for Shoei to focus on in order to pad out the time, the Yamato stuff is the last thing I would ever think they would do. But I guess it is what it is. With that said, though, this episode also with that said though, and kind of full on spoiler ahead for anime only. So if you wanna skip this part, just turn off the video now. But with that said, though, this episode does kind of emphasize something about Yamato, which made me come around to the idea of why Oda didn't have Yamato join the crew, and why, unlike so many others, I wasn't as disappointed about her joining as many other people in the One Piece fandom are, which is that I think Oda realized he kind of created a clash of personality with Yamato. Like, when you really look at Yamato, she shares a lot of similarities with Luffy, whether it be back character traits, temperament, or just overall personality. If you were to really think about it for a moment and put both Luffy and Yamato side by side for comparison, Yamato is basically Luffy. The only difference is that she's first Luffy with tits. She's a female Luffy. Now, don't get me wrong. Yamato is still her own unique character in her own way, and where she can stand on her own. But whether it was by accident, or intention, I think Oda did realize that at that point, by that point of realizing that, oh shit, I've transferred a lot of Luffy's traits over to Yamato. I think it was by that point he realized that Yamato couldn't join the crew. But by that point, because in Oda's mind, it would have created a bit of an imbalance in the character dynamics of the crew. So I think he ultimately chose to keep her on Wano in order to be like Wano's Luffy, so to speak. Now, granted, everything I just said and laid out, I'm not saying is exactly or strictly the reason why, but I think these reasons are, I think at the very least, what I've laid out is, I think it is fair to say that they're at least contributing factors to what led to the ultimate decision Oda made in order to leave Yamato on Wano. I think that's ultimately what it was. Aside from that, the only other major aspect to this episode to talk about is the fight with Zoro versus King, which not only I think ramps things up and shows that we're kind of slowly approaching the end game of the fights for Zoro and Sanji, but I like how it showed the idea that it's getting that because Zoro is getting tired, because he's slowing down, it's also getting easier for King to read Zoro's emotions and what it is he's thinking or feeling in order to take advantage of the fight. And seeing Enma act up, you know it's pissed with Zoro and wanting King's blood, it wants some revenge right now. You can tell that's what's going on here. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.